The Ace Pro 2 is intended to be more than just a conventional action camera. There is a new firmware with new color profiles and a variety of new accessories for the Ace Pro 2. I believe it is evident what Insta360 is trying to achieve with this. The Ace Pro 2 is intended to be an interesting alternative to a DSLR or a mirrorless camera. So not just a camera you use to film yourself skiing or underwater, but a camera that you can use like a point-and-shoot camera for photography. A stylish gadget that can do more than your smartphone and that you prefer to use over a mirrorless camera like my Sony here. Insta360 has gone all out for this, with several new lenses, a new high-quality grip, the XPlorer Grip Pro, but my favorite new accessory is this one. But more on that later. The new accessories and color profiles are intended to make the Ace Pro 2 a completely new camera. Today we'll take a look at the new lenses, how they affect the image, the new grip of course, and how the Ace Pro 2 can become a full-fledged instant camera. During my test, I always took my Sony with me and took comparison shots, so you can see whether the new accessories serve their purpose and can make this little action camera an interesting replacement for a mirrorless or DSLR. At the end of the video, I'll tell you what I think about this topic. But before that, you should take a look at this. The Ace Pro 2 is now also available in white. And Insta360 hasn't just colored the camera white. There are also a few grayish, red and black elements. Overall, the white Ace Pro 2 looks incredibly cool. By the way, the lens cover has been slightly redesigned on all new models. Should you go for the white or the black camera? The white version looks extremely stylish and is a real eye-catcher. It looks even better in combination with the silver selfie stick. But of course, it also has its disadvantages. White can get dirty more quickly. Scratches on the housing are more visible, and as some people have pointed out with the X5, it could be difficult to find the camera again in the snow. Although I don't expect to lose the camera in the snow. By the way, all the products in this video were provided to me by Insta360 for testing purposes. But this video does not contain any additional paid sponsorship. So today I'm just going to tell you what I think of the new accessories. A few months ago, Insta360 already released a grip for the Ace Pro 2, the XPlorer Grip. I don't think I ever got around to introducing it here. There were just too many projects going on at a time. Personally, I definitely like the new XPlorer Grip Pro much better. It's also a completely different accessory, but it does have a few minor drawbacks. While the XPlorer Grip is basically a metal frame with a grip, the XPlorer Grip Pro has a built-in battery that can charge your camera, significantly extending its battery life. It also has an SD card slot on the side. However, this is only for storing SD cards and does not expand your camera's memory. In addition, there are a number of controls that, in my opinion, make the real difference and transform the Ace Pro 2 from an action camera into a point-and-shoot camera. As with a mirrorless camera, you'll find a real shutter button at the top right, which feels just like the shutter button on a large camera. This allows you to take photos and start and stop recording. Quick capture is also available. Similar to other conventional cameras, you'll find a zoom knob on the front. This allows you to zoom in and out with precision. And as you may know, the Ace Pro 2 also features the so-called clear image zoom. This is a 2x digital zoom, but thanks to the high-resolution sensor, a large part of the image quality is retained. Another nice feature is that you can switch directly from 1x to 2x and back again by briefly turning the zoom knob. Because you should not forget that intermediate steps can sometimes lead to a greater loss of image quality. Here at the back, you will find a mode dial, just like on my Sony. In the default settings, you can use it to change the color profiles. If you don't need this very often, you can also change the function and set the dial so that you can use it to change the shooting mode, shutter speed, ISO, or perhaps even more interestingly, the exposure compensation. This allows you to expose the shot a little brighter or darker. For particularly bright days, there is also a flip screen hood, so that you can see the display better. And that's also well designed. You just attach a thin metal frame to the display and can then remove the flip screen hood when you don't need it, and quickly reattach it magnetically when necessary. Even the wrist strap has been redesigned. And if you're familiar with the Go Ultra, you'll notice that it's the same wrist strap as on the Go Ultra, just bigger. With this orange ball, you can quickly and easily remove and reattach it. And the grip has another feature that I almost overlooked. It has a cold shoe mount at the top where you can attach a microphone or receiver. But that's not all. If you remove the red plug, you can also plug in a microphone. So the grip also has an integrated microphone adapter. And of course, you can also attach the Ace Pro 2 mount to the bottom of the grip. This allows you to use the camera and the grip on a selfie stick. So everything is extremely cleverly designed and well thought out. And honestly, the camera with the grip feels hardly any different from my Sony mirrorless camera. No wonder, Both devices are now similar in size and weight. But what could be improved on this grip? As I said, I like the Pro Grip much better than the other XPlorer grip. And in a direct comparison, I would always choose the Pro Grip, if only because it actually feels like a real camera. But of course, due to the integrated battery, it is not waterproof, that's true. But if it's really raining hard, just take the camera out and put the grip in your bag. Of course, you now have another accessory to charge. Otherwise, the integrated battery is useless. The dial could perhaps be a little less loose. But the only real drawback is that my Mac doesn't recognize the camera when I connect the grip via USB-C. The battery charges, but I can't download the files via the cable. And the USB cover on the left side of the camera is difficult to remove while the grip is attached. This means that to download the files, you have to remove the camera from the grip. However, this is not particularly complicated. But as I said, the new Pro Grip isn't the only new accessory. Let's take a look at the lenses. And in my opinion, the most interesting lens for most people is the Ultrawide Lens. Funnily enough, of the 3 new lenses, it's also the cheapest when purchased individually. And this lens is incredibly wide, even for an ultrawide lens. For example, it produces a significantly wider field of view than the ultrawide lens on the GoPro. And it's also wider than the boost lens for the Action 6, for example. You'll be hard-pressed to find a wider lens at the moment. And I can assure you, you won't find a lens this wide for your mirrorless. You even have to be careful how you hold the camera, so that your fingers don't appear in the image. But what can you do with a lens like this? Quite a lot. It's well suited for videos and photos. For videos, for example, you can film yourself doing sports with an even wider field of view. Such a wide field of view is normally only possible with a 360 camera. It's also great for POV shots, but that's not all. As I said, the Ace Pro 2 is meant to be more than just an action camera, and the ultrawide lens is also great for particularly creative photos. For example, of interesting structures or buildings. The photos look very interesting and cool. Incidentally, this photo was taken with the new color profile Leica Eternal. It's very difficult to take a photo like this with a mirrorless or a DSLR. And in this day and age, it's not that easy to create something unusual. So for me, the ultrawide lens is one of the most useful of the new accessories. The close-up lens is completely different. Why do you need this lens? Isn't everything in focus on the Ace Pro 2 anyway? No, not necessarily. Cameras like the Ace Pro 2 have a fixed focus, which means there is no autofocus. But the fixed focus is set to infinity. This means that the background and the subject are always in focus from a certain distance. To be precise, from 37 centimeters. But anything closer than 37 centimeters is out of focus. If you want to take a close-up shot, for example to capture certain B-roll footage, then this new lens is ideal. Due to the distortions, I don't think the camera is particularly suitable for close-ups of faces. And that's also one of its disadvantages compared to my mirrorless camera. But the close-up lens now expands the camera's range of applications. You can also adjust the focus manually by turning the focus ring here. And as you can see here, a close-up shot like this even creates a certain amount of background blur. Whether you need it depends, of course, very much on your needs and the possible use. And then, of course, there's the incredibly great cinematic lens. The filmmakers among you will love this lens. When you screw it on and activate it, the camera automatically switches to the cinematic 2.35:1 widescreen format. But that's not all, of course. The lens removes some of the digital sharpness. The fact is that a high-quality cinematic shot is rich in detail, but should not have that sharp digital look. That's why every professional filmmaker prefers a softer look. The lens also combines well with the flat log profile iLog. Of course, you should mainly use this if you want to grade the colors of your shots. But of course, it also works well in combination with the new cinematic color profiles. This shot here, for example, was taken with Leica Eternal, a very typical Leica color profile with a strong magenta tone and very high contrast. But the cinematic lens has another feature, perhaps the most striking one. It creates very special horizontal lens flares. Insta360 doesn't call the lens an anamorphic lens, but basically it has the look of an anamorphic lens. And it looks very cool. Unfortunately, I have to say that there is also a disadvantage. The lens flares only really come into their own with artificial light sources, which basically means in the evening or in the dark. But the lens does not support the pure video mode, which means that it's not particularly well suited for shooting in low light conditions. At least in such cases, you should manually adjust the exposure for optimal results and cannot rely on the pure video mode. And again, for comparison, there are of course anamorphic lenses for my Sony, but as you can imagine, They are not exactly cheap and usually don't come with autofocus, making them not very easy to use and more suited to experts. Earlier we saw that you have to activate the lens. Unfortunately, this applies to all lenses. The camera does not recognize them automatically. I think the lens mount would probably have had to be redesigned for this. And I noticed that you have to be careful when changing the lenses so as not to let dust get in. That's what happened to me here. You've now seen that the anamorphic lens works well with the new Leica color profiles. The great thing is, even as a beginner, you can use it to take extremely high quality cinematic looking shots. Of course, you can do the same with my Sony here, but the process is much more complicated. But the new color profiles are not only suitable for this lens, of course. In my opinion, they are also well suited for photography. New additions include Leica Eternal, Leica Black and White, a black and white profile with very high contrast, a new retro neon look that's well suited for night shots, and a beautiful vintage vacation filter for colorful shots in daylight, giving you a kind of Wes Anderson look. And speaking of Wes Anderson, there are also a number of new cinematic editing templates in the app under Flashcard. One of them is designed to reproduce that Wes Anderson look. I think the new color profiles are great, even if the contrast is sometimes a little too high. For example, with Leica Eternal, dark areas in the image in particular can quickly become too dark. The color profile is therefore not always suitable. But let's move on to my favorite new accessory, the new pocket printer. And it's already become apparent that I won't be able to use the printer very often, because my daughter loves it and has already claimed it for herself. You install a cartridge on the side, connect the printer via Bluetooth, attach the camera on top, and then you can print your photos right after taking them, just like with an instant camera. And the result is absolutely high quality. You have the option of printing the Leica logo on the photo, which gives it a very professional look. The new Leica profiles are also well suited for this type of printing. As mentioned, the result is very high quality, but the printer takes its time, because it prints the colors one after the other. Of course, the whole package with the camera and printer is a bit large and is no longer a real pocket camera that you can just slip into your pocket. But the pocket printer comes with a very stylish leather case, in which you can easily store the printer and the camera. But of course, you can also keep the small printer at home. The camera can be quickly removed by simply pressing the button on the front. And of course, you can print not only the photos you have just taken, but all the photos currently on your SD card. But the printer is of course intended as a lifestyle gadget and to be taken with you. And I've already realized that such a device is particularly popular with Gen Z. It has that retro feel. It's nice to have something in your hand that's not just digital. Quickly printing a photo among friends or hanging it on the pinboard at home, that's something special. So don't forget, this could be a cool Christmas present. And as you can see, the printer and the camera fit into this small leather bag. That wouldn't work with my Sony APS-C camera. This lens is small, but it's also one of the lowest quality lenses available for this camera. A higher quality lens is significantly larger. But the question is, can the little Ace Pro 2 replace this camera? I wouldn't say replace. It can be an alternative to it, especially if you like the wide look. Because what it can't do, of course, is create background blur, and the focal length is limited to a rather wide angle. Yes, you can take relatively high quality shots even with a 2x zoom factor, but I wouldn't use it for close-up portraits. However, for wide shots, it's definitely at least as good as my big camera. And don't forget, if you need to, you can take the camera out of the grip and use it like an action camera. You can take underwater shots, you have a flip-up display for vlogging, you can take great slow motion shots in 4K, and you have fantastically well stabilized video recordings. None of which is possible with a mirrorless camera in this form. So the Ace Pro 2 has become an extremely versatile camera. All bundles with camera and grip or printer are currently on sale. You can find the links in the description. But that's not all. If you use the link, you'll also receive the high quality Mic Air Bluetooth microphone as a free gift. This means you can not only take high quality shots, but also record great audio. As usual, however, this offer is sure to be limited. So what do you think of the new accessories? Personally, I think the ultrawide lens and the pocket printer are really cool, as well as the grip, of course. Do you have any questions about the new accessories? Write them in the comments and give me a like as feedback if you found the video interesting. There will be more videos about the Ace Pro 2, of course. So stay tuned and see you next time.